too much vanilla CSS in those days myself.
I would rather just not have Bootstrap in the project and just do raw CSS.
Mm,
Because then at least like you don't have to think, because when you're using two different systems, then you're trying to think about when to use which system, when to be
yes.
consistent. Like, I don't know, there's a bunch of Bootstrap here, so I should continue using that, but it won't do what I need it to do. So I guess I got to bring in a CSS class now. Now you've got a mixing of systems, right? Where if it was all just CSS, you have access to all possibilities. I don't mind writing in CSS. I would like to learn to be better at just raw CSS or SCSS. Um,
It's good to know, but it is tough. It gets very just granular. The amount of work you have to do very simple things that like you throwing a Tailwind class on just handles. I mean, it's just Tailwind's like magic sometimes to me.
I mean, it
It
is
just
magic.
works, you know.
I love it. The thing that Tailwind has on raw CSS as well is the prefixing, right? And browser specific things. That's all handled in the Tailwind stuff behind the scenes. You don't have to, because I just yesterday I was reminded working on the project again that we're live, by the way, just so you're aware. Uh, uh, when you add like flex, display flex, or justify content, align items, all of those, they should be prefixed, because different browsers handle them differently. But
Oh,
Tailwind
right.
Tailwind does all the prefixing for you behind the scenes, so you don't have to even think about prefixing anymore. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's magic.
I
Exactly. Like even that kind
I
of
love
thing,
it.
and that's the kind of thing in vanilla CSS that gets so old having to deal with.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
there's
I'm
there's the auto
working on my
prefixer.
browser.
Yeah, you get what I did when I was building a whole landing page in raw CSS, is there's an auto prefixer website. You
Hmm.
take your CSS, you paste it in there, you hit go, and then it spits back out your same CSS with all relevant prefixing.
Oh,
Just insert, then you copy and paste it, and you put it into your style sheet, and you're done.
I didn't know about that. That's cool.
Yeah, I do not care to learn so deeply CSS that I know all of the prefixes. That just seems like a waste of time to me. There are more relevant things to learn and have in my memory
That's right. We
than
have higher
CSS
level things to worry
prefixes.
about.
I mean, there's just more. There's just too much. I only have so much space. I've been telling my wife this over the last few years, and she'll just be like, "Wait, you don't remember that?" I was like, "Hun, I have had to jettison like a whole portion of my memory to like open up space for everything I'm learning right now."
Yeah, I get that.
Anyways, so we're a few minutes early here. Got about five. We're about 5 minutes out, but we are live. Hello to our viewers. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another week. Um, we didn't
Welcome
scare
back.
Courtney away last week, which is great. He decided to stick around. He did not run back to Europe, as much
No,
as maybe
not
he'd
yet.
want to.
Not yet.
I'm very happy. We have coffee. Hopefully you have some sort of a delicious beverage.
I do. I have some tea. I picked up a little bit of a tea habit since I've been
Oh,
overseas.
look at you! I went to Europe and now I drink tea.
Binky's out.
What are you drinking? What tea?
It is a black tea, but actually, I've always liked tea. Always been kind of a green tea guy. I drink it just as it comes usually, but had a fair amount of tea experiences while I was gone, and I'm rocking some tea with a little bit of sugar and some oat milk, which I've come to really enjoy.
I use oat milk in my coffee as well.
Yeah.
I like that as well. Um, I cannot stand tea.
Mm.
I tried it, like it was like 2 winters ago, and I was playing in a pit band, um, for a show, and we had our own little like pit green room area, little corner that was kind of sequestered off, and it was cold in there because the theater, like that outside wall, no insulation. It's just like a door that's like shut.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a space heater in there, and I brought some backup like coffee making devices, and then some other people brought tea stuff, and I was like, I want to try tea. I'm going to give this a shot. So I tried like each of their like recommendations. I went out and I bought a couple of different things that I thought sounded interesting. The closest one I came to was I think it was a blood orange tea from Trader Joe's.
Oh yeah, I've had
that
that. It's
that
good.
that wasn't terrible. But the thing for me with tea is that it's so aromatic. It smells
Mm.
amazing. Like a
Mm.
raspberry tea, the blood orange tea. anything like that. It's just like, oh, yeah. And you smell that, and then you get it up to your lips, and you sip, and it's just like hot water with like kind of a flavor, and it's just disappointing for me.
I get that, especially coming from a coffee background. Like coffee is very strong. It feels like it's a,
Woo!
even though it's in a sense the same thing. It's like a steeped material in water, in hot
Right.
water. It feels like it's its own drink. I like coffee too. I think the thing with coffee is I just get too jittery.
Oh.
You know, it just becomes like my wife can even tell if I've had coffee. She'll be like, "Hold on, did you drink coffee today?" Because we get to this activity level.
Yeah, no shade for drinking tea at all. Just like that's my experience with tea, and that's where it is. But I'm glad other people can enjoy it. That's great.
Yes,
Um,
yes, of course.
if this was an evening show, maybe I would have a little whiskey, but it's during the afternoon, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, probably best.
Yeah, probably
I'm
best.
drinking code. Everyone at home.
You're drinking, yeah. Not I wouldn't see that as a very good mix, anyways. Okay, so couple of housekeeping items before we get going. Do we want to share some music?
Yeah, let's do it. Why don't you take the stage?
Okay, let me see here.
Spencer's got the first set here.
I'm gonna do. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this tiling manager that I'm using, but when I have to move things around, it's not as efficient. But like while I'm coding between a project, very efficient. So what I was listening to earlier today was an album by Pliny, who is, imagine that, like a fusion guitar, rock guitar guy, all instrumental stuff. He's got a bunch of albums. This one, Handmade Cities, is fantastic, but he also has this Impulse Voices is also fantastic. I've got a whole list here of like the fusion guitar stuff. But yeah, Pliny, check him out. Great melodies, really good melodies, really tasteful. It's like it gets a little shreddy at times, but beautiful songs, beautiful melodies, and harmonies and stuff. Very interesting music. Love that stuff. Um, yeah, why don't you go?
Pliny.
Pliny.
Okay. Yes. Let me share. Let me actually pull this over to the sharing screen.
Right.
Yeah. So I to spotlight other bass players because that's the way I am. I've been listening to
Pa- Hold on for 1 second. Your mic just went
yes,
like boom. I don't. I don't know.
really loud.
Yeah, like really loud and very harsh.
Oh, am I still that way?
Yes.
Okay, hold
I,
on a
I
sec.
don't know if that's just me or what, but like that was a big level change.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you, but your volume is jacked. You're silent now.
Okay, and how about now?
Yep, same thing. Still super loud. And
Still huh?
I
Okay.
don't know if that's just me, but it was just like a very sudden change.
Okay. Sick. Um, let me sign out and come back in. I'll be right back. Oh, you know what it might be? You're not listening to the stream also, are you? By chance?
No, I have that muted.
Okay, okay. I'll be right back then.
If anybody's out there watching, you can let me know if you heard some kind of like big volume thing. I think there's a pretty big time difference actually between our side and the actual stream, but
Okay, how are we doing now?
now you're normal. Okay.
Okay.
We seem to be having issues with your computer, your connection, something, and Huddle, maybe. So I don't know if we need to switch providers or something.
Nothing like a tech stream with technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's try this again. It felt like it was maybe when I was sharing that something changed. So let's see what happens here. All right, so we'll share screen too. Okay, am I super loud again?
You sound fine.
Perfect. Okay, so I've been listening to this bass player named Cartoons. It's two R's in the name.
Cartoons.
Yeah. His last name I think is Carr, Carr, which is where the name comes from.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. But he's
Saw
a
the
bassist.
opportunity and took it. That's fantastic. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous myself. Um, but
Wow.
he's a bassist and a producer, so he produces beats and things like that. And he did an NPR Tiny Desk this year that was
Yeah.
the first time I'd heard of him. But I noticed that he had Kiefer on keys, who's an artist that I follow. I really enjoy, and he had a bunch of guest artists on this particular Tiny Desk concert. I highly recommend this particular video. Um, they play about four songs, and they're all very soulful. They kind of fit in that modern neo soul vibe, and they've got a string section and everything. It's totally up my alley. Support a local bass player or a national one for that matter. And are you posting your link anywhere?
I just gave us a shout out on LinkedIn. I hadn't. Oh, you mean my music link? Sorry.
Yeah, your music link.
I hadn't, but I totally can.
I'll do the same. I guess we'll share it on what the LinkedIn commenting section.
I guess even though it's kind of weird, but let's see. Where is my? Okay, can I not? Weird. Share. There we go.
Let's try that. And then nothing like LinkedIn comments. This it's funny every time I use this. Like, how do I actually enter? I don't know about you, but I don't let messages or anything send on LinkedIn by just pressing enter. I usually have like a hold shift kind of thing,
Yep.
or actually press the button, but I don't have that option here for some reason,
Oh, yeah.
which is par for the course. Here, I have to load it again. You know what?
Uh,
We can
while,
share
while
that
you're
later.
doing
Maybe.
that, I'm gonna do one very quick announcement. We have a YouTube channel. I have all of our previous, or we have all of our previous episodes uploaded here to the YouTube channel, and we'll continue to keep this updated. Maybe we'll end up doing more stuff here. Not sure. For right now, it's just kind of a catalog, but they're all here, and it's kind of fun. I think it looks good, and hope to grow it somehow. But yeah, just a quick announcement.
I'm probably not going to be able to get this shared through LinkedIn right now because I'm also having that that refresh issue that we talked about, where things
Oh,
just don't seem to update.
hmm.
But that's
Okay.
okay.
Let's just move
Maybe
on.
we pop into some code.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
What
So
are we
where we
doing,
last
Courtney?
left off, yeah, we were talking about okay, so we built this form, right? That allows us to enter some information for a to-do item and then create a to-do item. But now the problem is how do we how do we keep that to-do item present even when we refresh the page or we leave and sign back in? And how do we do that? Well, we have to create a database, and then we actually have to connect everything up, basically. Um, so, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to start the long and wonderful process of hooking up a database to our application.
Get
Okay.
hyped for data.
Woo, woo, woo. I love data. So, we talked off screen. We decided we're going to use a Postgres, which is a SQL database, basically, um, or SQL for my SQL heads out there. And I've used a provider called Neon before. They allow you one free database, so I highly recommend because it's very easy to connect and get started. So, with that, let's sign up. Of course, completely not found. Oh, and yet here it is.
All right,
Um,
great.
so I'm going to call our project Upskill and Chill because that is our channel name. The database, though, I'm just going to call this to do because we're making a to do database. I'll go ahead and capitalize that actually. And let's create the project. Now, one thing I like about this is that when you're creating a database, you have to create a connection string so that you can actually connect to your database from within your application. And Neon provides a lot of auto-generated connection strings. which is great because sometimes this is a confusing part of setting up your first database or your second or third or what have you. Uh, we decided to use Prisma as our ORM, which I believe stands for Object Relational Mapper. So this is how we will communicate with our database through TypeScript, which is what we're building our next app in. Um, so with that said, we've created our database, but now we actually have to go navigate back to the app and begin building the framework from which we will integrate all of this material. Okay, so let me just shrink this up real quick. Okay, so I'm back on my branch. I've already merged all changes that we had from last week into mine, so I'm up to date with you, Spencer. And what I'm going to do is first install Prisma. Okay, so npm I Prisma. Got to get this package in here. We have to do some configuration and some setup so that so Prisma can start once we build the backend, can start entering posts. I mean, sorry, to-do items that we add, and then also retrieving them should we need to view them, and many other good things from there. Okay, so just confirming. It looks like Prisma is installed rather. Now, with Prisma, we're going to use npx to run all of our commands, which is installed automatically with npm past a certain point, which we are both past. A certain version, I mean. And this is going to let us basically execute all the commands. So I'm going to go ahead and execute the init command. We're going to initialize essentially a new Prisma project within our folder. This should set things up for us. Okay. Beautiful. So what you'll see is that we have now a Prisma folder that contains a schema file, which we will be doing some editing in.
Okay.
This will also allow us to connect both to the client, which will run our Prisma commands, and directly to the database. The other thing that's not as obvious that it adds is a .env file for us. .env being for private variables and keys and things like that we don't push up to our GitHub. That essentially confirm that we are who we are. We have authorization to connect to our database in this case, and it just fills in this generic URL string. I'm going to add one in later. I'm going to do it right now. I'm not going to show you what it is, but I will show you how I do it. So navigating back.
And then, oh, sorry, you go ahead and
Oh yeah.
finish, and then I was gonna have you like use password push to send me the link.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let's real quick. Let's start
You
with
can do
this.
that later.
So the cool thing with the Prisma box here, back on Neon, is it has our schema.prisma file here. This is the same as what we already have. Just navigating back so you can see. It shows us basically how to connect to the database. It's just this little block. So data source DB, we're using PostgreSQL. And then our URL will connect to the env variable database URL. I navigate back to env, and it's called database.url, right? So what I'm going to do is copy our specific connection string, and I'll paste it in here. Again, I'm not going to show you, so you don't have access to my password and specific information. But you will know that that's how this works. I can show you basically how this looks, though. Another cool thing about Neon, sorry, is it generates the password for you, and it stars it out so that I can share at least this much with you. But what I'm going to do is copy the snippet and then paste it into my VS Code. So give me just a second to do that off screen. Okay. What's wonderful about this is that we will get up and running very quickly, and we can start defining our models, which is going to be the first task that we have. Okay. Make sure I got this all entered correctly. Perfect. One thing I will mention as I navigate away from that particular page, and let's actually hide the password again. Okay. Um, they add this little bit of text here at the end. For some people, this might cause an issue. I always delete this question mark SSL mode equals require, and I'm able to have my database run correctly. Now, I have not pushed any Prisma code to a production database yet, so I'm not entirely sure what that does. We can investigate at a later time. But in the interest of getting moving, let's dive in. So, navigating back to our code, I've already input the password into our .env. One other thing to check is in our get_ignore file that we're actually ignoring the env. So we have our .local ignored, which we don't even have at this moment. But I'm just going to add .env. And the reason for this is we don't want to push that password up to our GitHub repo, because then it becomes available to anybody to view. And I've done that before, and it's really annoying because you have to generate a new key, and it's just a security risk. So don't do that.
Yeah.
always make sure your get_ignore is ignoring .env. Okay, great. So now we have we're connected, and we have our first Prisma file generated. So what do we have to do next? We have to define our first model. And luckily for now, we only have one model to worry about, which is a to-do list item, right? So I'm going to go ahead and define that rather. Command is model. And let me see here. So should we call this to-do item?
The type in TypeScript is task.
Task, I like that. Okay. Oops. Use Pascal case when you're working in Prisma, which means you capitalize the first letter of every word that's involved in here. So if it were a task item, it would look like this, but it's not. Okay. So let me pull up. Let's do a little double screen here, or double file rather.
A split.
A split. There you go. Thank you, Spencer. I want to take a look at what's in a task, because we're going to define all the data that's stored, and we have to be very strict since we're using Postgres, which is a SQL language database, or object relational database manager, I believe. We have to be very strict about the types and the relation to any other data that we have. So right now we only have one model to define. Very simple. We don't have to relate it to others, but eventually we will get there.
Yeah, the case in my mind that's coming out is eventually we want to set this up with some auth, and then we can have user instances, and then we're going to have to add into each of these tasks, we're going to have to put a user ID so that we know
Exactly.
which tasks in the database belong to which users.
Yeah, we'll have to relate them through IDs. So on that note, one thing that we don't have in any of our tasks, so we haven't needed it at this point, is an ID, so that we can tell the tasks apart. And
Task ID. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Exactly. So go ahead and call this ID. So we name it first. And let me check my notes here.
Isn't UUID? There's some like the UUID library is what I've used before to make unique IDs, right? But
Mhm.
I thought that there was some kind of update to JavaScript where there's actually something native in JavaScript now that comes up with IDs, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna do some research on that.
There might be, but also we can let our database handle that. This is
Oh,
one of the strengths of Postgres, at the very least. I'm sure this is a feature in MySQL and other versions of this, but we're going to define the type. So in Prisma, call it int, because it's an integer or a number type. And then I'm going to let it know, we have some decorators that we can use to further define this, and this is important. We're going to add @ID. This tells Prisma that this is going to be like the primary key, or what defines every task will have a unique ID essentially. So there shouldn't be any copies. And the last thing we were just talking about is having a default. We're going to create this sort of like a function, and we're going to auto increment. And what this will do is actually auto assign an ID every time we enter a new task into our database. which is convenient.
Okay. Okay. So the ID is handled on the database side. We will
Exactly.
send our task object. The ID will get added, and then when we call the tasks back down from the database, that ID will come along with it.
Exactly. And this might mean that we want to add an ID to our task. I have to think about that. We'll have to probably stumble
Yeah.
into it and see if that's necessary at this stage or not.
Yeah, that was
Um,
that was the thing I was thinking, because if because here we're defining the task without an ID, and then we're going
that's
to
right.
eventually get a task with an ID. Those might do those have to be do two different types? Do we create a unison? Well, yeah, we figure that
That's a
out.
good question because yeah, at this point it does not exist with an ID.
Right.
Um, we're going to eventually submit this form, which will send it to the database, which will then generate the ID. And perhaps, this is something that we could decide to actually handle on submit, and maybe using what you're talking about, like, excuse me, a native JavaScript method or pattern to do
Yeah.
such a thing.
Or even just
Uh,
UUID. If I'm wrong about there being something native, UUID is the thing that I've seen everywhere, and it's super easy to use.
okay. Um, yeah, maybe we'll make that change. For now, I'll continue on defining these
Sure.
data
Yep.
points on the task. Okay, so with that in mind, next we have description. So description is a string, and let's see, it doesn't have to be unique. By default, everything in a Prisma model is required. So if we wanted to define this as something that was optional, which I suppose we will do in a little bit, we would add a little question mark here. But for now, nothing else that we need to do. Descriptions do not have to be unique. You could have the same description on multiple different tasks and so forth. So we can move on to the next. Priority. Gosh, priority. Good, I spelled that right. This is going to be an integer. It's 1 through 3. Also doesn't have to be unique. Created at. Let me see here. So we're actually assigning that already. Is that correct?
We haven't done it yet, but that's going to be part of the submit process, and that will be, I believe, we're going to do that as a timestamp, which is just going to be a string.
Okay, so we will call that a string. And then we have, so we'll come back to deadline. Then we
Yeah.
have completed. And let me see, what was the type for Booleans? I think it's just bool, but let me double check that. It's actually the whole word, Boolean, meaning true or false. Okay. So here we are. We have our entire model defined. I guess since we don't have the created at set yet, I will make that an optional data point for now, and we can always change that later.
Okay.
Um,
We'll just get
but
the data flowing, confirm it works, and then we can worry about those details.
exactly, we can always make changes to the database. Might mean that at times we have to actually delete what we have in there, but that's okay for this stage. Once we're in production, not okay. Okay. So here's our basic model. So now we're going to run the command. Well, two things. First, we're going to do npx prisma format. This is not necessary, but what you will see is that it formats our model nicely. So it goes from here to there. So now you can see everything lines up, and it's a little easier to read.
Ah,
Something I like about it. Yeah, that way I don't have to worry about formatting it myself. We love that as coders.
love it.
Okay, and then next command we have to run a migration. I don't know why it's called that, but basically what that means is we're going to generate a set of SQL commands that will create this database and create the model. So you'll see what that looks like in just a second. So npx prisma migrate dev, I believe. Let's see if I got this right. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, never mind. Your database server is running. Okay, something wrong with the database. Beautiful. Can't reach database server at API. Okay, so that means that perhaps there's some configuration I have not done on our database yet.
We need to confirm some. Oh, create your.
Okay, so it says our project is ready. Let's go to databases. Let's refresh this. Strange. Oh, here we go. To do. Okay. We have tables in here. So this should be empty because we haven't been able to run this first migration. So let me pop back into VS Code. Let's try running that again. Schema public. Perfect. Okay.
Here we go.
Looks like maybe it just needed a refresh online. Okay, now it's going to ask us for a name for the migration. This is going to work a lot like committing in Git. You're going to create just a small message. We can just call this initial schema, or yeah, let's call it that. And basically, it'll keep a record of all the changes because we could always revert back to an earlier version of our database. So I'm going to name it that way. And beautiful. Okay. So now we have this new migrations folder that's been added, and this is going to be a record of all our migrations. And so I'll open this up just to show you what's actually going on. And these are the actual raw SQL commands that are running. So this is what you do to create a new table, in this case, task. Our models are essentially tables. We already have a database, so we didn't have to create that with any commands. And then this is how SQL at least defines these different what do you call them, properties of the table, or columns rather, on the table, and what has to be inside of them. So you'll see serial. This indicates that this is going to be an ID that counts up and down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Not null means there has to be an entry for this. We cannot submit data that does not have an ID, although we've already set it up so that it'll generate that automatically. Description, same thing, not null. These are all things that we have to have. Created at, you notice, does not have the not null tag, so it can be empty if we submit it at this point. Though eventually we will run a migration that fixes that.
Was there a reason that you didn't make description optional?
You know what? I totally forgot. I think it is optional, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So with that in mind, let's make a little change. I'm going to go ahead and add the optional question mark. And the way we fix this is run another migration.
Beautiful. We'll just show that example right away.
Yeah. Slow today, aren't we? Well, Spencer and I were talking about the virtues of having enough memory available on your device, and mine is not the most powerful.
I feel like that's not a memory thing. That's just a connection. Like you had that that screen was trying to load for so long, right?
That's a good point.
So there might just be like some slow network situation going on between wherever you are right now and that database.
We'll call this description optional. I believe it'll force snake case on all of these. I will show you what I mean by that. All of these descriptions of migrations. Okay, so now you see we have a second one. These are timestamps, by the way. The 2024, so on and so forth. And let's just see. Yeah, initial schema, description, optional. Okay. And now let's look. So what will happen is it alters the table, and it alters the specific column, which is description.
It doesn't recreate it because it's already been created, but now it's doing an alter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So great. Now we have basically our first model defined. last thing we need to create is a Prisma client that will essentially allow us to connect and perform Prisma operations on the actual database. And so the way we do that is we're going to create a file called prisma.client, I think, or no, client.ts. That's what I called it. This is just a convention. I don't think you have to call it client.ts. Now, I could show you how to build a simple client, but for all of our Next.js users, we're going to have to do something a little different for setting this up because the generic way that they show, excuse me, on the Prisma website will have you creating accidentally multiple clients, and there will be multiple running at the same time, and you don't want that because of hot reloading. Like, you know how when we enter new code, it automatically reloads. Well, it generates a new client upon each reload. So what we have to do is I just searched best practice for Prisma Next.js, and they have this very handy file here. And we're just going to copy this. What this file is basically doing is making it so that we don't ever have multiple Prisma clients running at the same time. I don't fully understand what is exactly happening on each line of this, but that is the gist of what the whole file does. So I'll go ahead and copy this. Put this right here. Okay.
Oh, it's creating a singleton. Okay.
Exactly. That way we're never running it multiple times. Okay. And let's check back with our docs. So I believe with all that, I think the last thing we have to do is run the client generation command. And I need to look that up because I do not have everything memorized. Prisma generates, that's what it is. Okay.
Makes sense.
Go ahead. One strange thing about the Prisma docs is they write everything like this, but you do have to have that npx in front. Okay. Everything looks good. Okay, so with all that done, I probably should have done this a little sooner, but what I'm going to do is commit all of this.
No, that's fine.
Where are we at? So, okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and just call this up Prisma setup. Okay.
Great.
We'll just push that up. Okay, so we have our Prisma client set up. We're raring and ready to go. Now what
You're
do
a
we
rock
do?
star.
Yeah,
you walked us through that very well. That was a great presentation. How have you done that many times?
I've done this twice before, and I did refresh myself today, so that I didn't come up here and stumble around. That's right. Yeah. That's right. And you know, you can only prepare so much. Things go wrong. You never know. I did not expect us to not be able to connect when I ran the first migration, and yet all I had to do was refresh a page. I mean, who knew?
Yeah.
Okay, so with all that in mind, we actually have to start developing endpoints. Okay, beautiful thing about Next.js, we've teased this a bit, but you can actually build backend components. Basically, you can build an entire backend. There are probably some limitations, though I've never hit them myself. But without further ado, let's get started on that. So I'm going to close all these up. The standard way to do this is, I believe it's within the app folder, and let me just double check that. Take a look at my notes. It is. So in the app folder, we're going to create a new folder called API. And inside of API, we will start building out our routes. It works much the same way that routing already works on the front end in Next.js, in that I'm going to create a folder. We'll call it to do. Actually, in this case, we'll probably call it task. Since we're going
is this going to be like create task versus delete task or update task?
It'll have the options for all of those.
Okay. So just broadly task API
Exactly.
endpoints. Okay, cool.
Hmm. Okay, so within the task, excuse me, folder. Sorry, I mute myself, but we've been having issues with me muting and losing myself. Within the task folder, though, we're going to create a file, and this does need to be named this way. It's route.tsx. We're creating a routing component, and this tells this later on when we start hitting this endpoint, we will hit the slash task route. Now, Spencer, tell me, have you worked with backend before? I forget. You familiar with
I've
like REST endpoints and all that?
I've done a little bit of I've interacted with a lot of backends. I've only written a couple of like simple ones just to like kind of see how it works. But yeah, I mean, using fetch and hitting a backend and getting the promise and taking down the JSON and whatnot, and then processing that. I've done that a bunch.
Okay, cool. So this should be pretty familiar then,
Yeah.
or vaguely familiar, though syntax will be different because we're doing it in Next now. So first things first, we have to import some items from Next server. So we're going to import Next request and Next response.
Recon
Next
res.
That's right. That's right. And we import this from Next/server. All right. The other thing that we will need to import is our Prisma client. So we're exporting it as Prisma from, let's see, right here. I think we're exporting as Prisma. It doesn't seem to like that. Let me take a look at what is going on in our client. Export default Prisma. Oh, so actually,
You don't need the Nice
yeah, there
catch.
we go. Excellent.
That one gets me more often than it should. The idea of
Oh,
like,
all the
are you
time.
exporting
I
as a
know.
default or not? And then that changes how you import it.
Totally. It hits me all the time too. That's the only reason I knew to check that first. Okay,
We learn
so let's do.
eventually.
Yeah, we certainly do. So with REST endpoints, we'll start with the first two, which are pretty generic. Many of you are probably familiar, but for those that aren't, they're get and post requests. So get requests are essentially I'm going to get some data and just be able to look at it, and then post requests allow you to create data in the database, or there's other functions for it. But for today, we're going to create data, and we're going to start with that because we need to actually be able to add things to our database. So we're going to export async. One of the arguments is going to be a request. Oops. So next request is actually a type. Okay.
And
So
the
here we go.
all caps on post, is that just a convention?
No, that is required.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, for all of these, for get, post, patch,
For
all the
routes.
other
Okay.
routes. Yeah, exactly. You need
Okay.
to do all caps.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we do? When we're creating, when we're posting, we need to, especially if we're creating something, this is our create route. We're going to use this to actually make tasks. You have to include a body because this is where all of our data is going to sit. So body is await request.json. And then we will want to create the actual data or format the data itself and how we're going to enter it. And what I mean by that is we're going to create a task. This is the new task that we're creating every time we hit this endpoint. Wait, and this is where our Prisma comes in. We're going to do Prisma.task. This word right here is defined by the model that we created earlier. And then create, which is a command within Prisma. Now inside of this, we're going to set this up like this. We're going to do our data, and I like to just do spread operator and body. What this means is like all of our body data is going to spread out and fill in on the corresponding data points, description, created at, and so forth. Okay, let's see. What do we not like about this? Does not exist on type of. Okay, let's take a look at our schema.
Capital T, does the capital make a difference?
That's a great question. Checking my notes, it doesn't look like it. But let me try. Might as well just take a look. Oops. Oh my gosh. A mess over here.
Okay, it's not that.
Does not exist on type of Upskill&Chill. Okay. Then let me take a look. I have some notes open here, luckily. Let's take a look at why this might be. In the past, I've used, let's take a look at our model here. The model task, this all looks correct. Do I need to export on this file? Did I forget that? No, no export needed.
You want to check your client TS? Because
Let's.
is that because we're exporting Prisma from here, right? So this is where we're getting our Prisma. Do you need to import from this file instead of, or is that what you're already doing?
I have a bit of different syntax on the actual client that I have on my own project. So let me try to integrate that.
Okay.
So this is the same. This creates our Prisma client singleton.
Yep.
Now this is where things start to get a little different. I'm going to go ahead and just comment that out. I'm going to include something that's a little simpler. I do seem to remember having this issue before, and I had to do a bit of different different work to get this to work correctly. Take that. We're going to go ahead and comment these out. And then this looks the same. I'm sorry, everyone. You can't see this, but I'm comparing to another file that I have open here.
Cheater. Cheater.
I know. Pumpkin eater. Let's see. And then this will actually have to look like that, no? Oops. Interesting. Export concept. Oh, I think probably what I have to do is run px prisma generate. We're going to generate a new client based off of the new information I've provided. There we go. And this did seem to fix our task issue. So that's something to investigate in the future. And then what's wrong with this? Has no exported named Prisma. Did you mean Prisma? I don't think I did. Export const Prisma equals. So why would it feel that way? Huh. That's an interesting wrinkle. So it doesn't like this once I make this a standard export. What if I include default? No, that is not syntax that works.
I've had issues with the export default const. I don't think that works. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what this says again. Okay, so our Prisma client has no exported member named Prisma. Did you mean Prisma? I don't know.
Try
that.
And then put capital P down there.
Still doesn't like this type of Prisma. And you know what's interesting? I don't think I mean this.
No, I don't think you do either.
This equals Prisma. Okay. Well, so much for espousing the values of how easy this is, huh? Okay. Let's do what we do then. Let's do a little search. See what could be the problem with this. Now we're doing real coding. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm searching through Stack Overflow. to see if this is similar. I'm trying to set up GitLab. This is a little bit different than what we're doing. No, this is not the problem we're having. But this looks like exactly what we're dealing with. So no exported member Prisma client. Name Prisma.schema to database. And Prisma generate after you deleted a Prisma folder. Interesting. Okay. The other thing I'm worried about is that this is actually at this point a rather old bit of help back in 2020.
Can you go back to the code real quick?
Yes.
So in the server here, this file here, route tsx. Instead of @Prisma client,
oh, you know what?
Can you bring that in from client.ts?
Let's try. I think the other thing though is that it was like this, which is not correct. It should not be @Prisma.
I mean, on their documentation, it is just @Prisma/client for a couple of these. So our equivalent of the client TS should be, now here they import. Now if you go to the client TS, is this the same? Do you import Prisma client over in client.ts?
Let's take a look. Up here,
it's right there.
It is. Yes.
Yeah, Prisma client. Okay. And then there's another step here that they're doing with another file that extends something. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like we're doing that step. But then import Prisma from, and then they just have ./db, which is the equivalent file to our client. So
I'm checking my notes here. This was definitely incorrect on the route file. We shouldn't be importing it from
Prisma client.
Yeah, it shouldn't look like this because we're importing Prisma from the client file that we created.
Right.
We import Prisma client from @Prisma/client.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that import path, you want to just try a relative path in the route.tsx import.
Yeah, let's try that.
Just to get that funky. I like the whatever it's called, the @ thing, but can we bump up?
How many farther back? Okay, here we go. Yes, this looks right. Oh, not that. That, I think. And then this. Okay, and then we add in this. Hey, success. TypeScript is happy, and yeah, everything looks happy now.
Okay,
that's interesting. We'll have to look into why that's the case.
Can you like copy that and comment it out, and we can try going back to the @ now that we know it's a pathing issue. Can you like clear out that whole string? Clear out the whole
yeah.
thing.
Just the whole all that?
Yeah, the whole string. Or well, not the
just
whole
the
line.
string.
Yeah, just the string. Gotcha. And then do string and then @/
Prisma/client.
Is it Prisma though? Is my question. So like, just do the / and see if you get your intelligent read.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm just wondering if there's like a backspace / app.
Oh,
/
that would be why.
To do.
Well, you know, it's strange. It's oh, I know why.
It's outside of source.
It is outside of source. Um,
Can you do dot? Yeah, can you do? Okay, so that may just not work with
well,
the
this is
at because it's outside of our source directory.
yeah. So let me take a look. Did I? Does it work the same way in here? Prisma is. It's on the same level as my app. Oh, I see. Okay. I wonder if it's something as simple as this. I'm just gonna try. We're gonna put it inside of our SRC folder.
Does it know to look for it there? Because
We will find out.
it generated it out there,
Yes.
and there's the Prisma. And
Okay.
there,
So
yep.
far,
So
so
it's a
good.
pathing issue.
Yes, that's what it looks like. Now, let's see if this
Is
actually. Oh,
there
hold on.
yeah? Do we have to go into like package, or is there? Let's see.
Do we not like this? You know what? I'm wondering if did I install Prisma at the wrong level?
Oh, you're in Upskill and Chill. You may not have been inside of the inside. Yeah, you did those commands maybe outside of the source directory. Yeah, because you haven't been there.
Right. So I was supposed to do. Well, actually, I don't know. Because I didn't create another
It's in our node module.
package.json. Yeah, yeah,
It's in the
yeah.
node modules. It's in the package, right?
Oops, wrong one. It is in the
Yeah,
package.
it's in the package.
Very strange. But let's see if this works.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to just see if this actually works the way that I think it should. So let's finish building the endpoint, and then we'll move from there.
Yeah.
Last thing we did though was we spread the body inside of the data. We're going to pass our data inside, or we're going to pass the body of data inside the request, which will then be used to populate our database. Last thing we have to do is return a next response. We do .json because this is the way that we are going to submit all of our data. Uh, we submit the task itself, and then we can submit a status code, which I like to do. Status code 201, successful creation. Okay.
All right,
So
so
now
let me just walk through this real quick, just so
yeah, yeah,
we're creating
go
a
for it.
post endpoint. The request is coming in. That's how we're handling. We're getting in the request that's coming in, being passed in from the endpoint. Like the front end will hit the back end. We get the request object, and
Correct.
then
Correct.
request.json. You're getting the JSON format of the request
Mm-hmm.
as the body, and then Prisma is going to create a task, which is an object. We're creating a body or a data field inside of that object
Mm-hmm.
because that's convention. And then we're
Yes.
spreading our incoming body, which is going to be a task object,
Mm-hmm.
as the data. So we've created that in the Prisma, so that's going to create it on the database. That's the creation step right there, right? Prisma
Yes.
task
Exactly.
creates it on the database, sends us back the object that was created, and then we're sending that back to the front end as confirmation of what was created. So we have a full
Exactly.
loop of passing in, here's my data, gets created, gets passed back to the front end, so you can confirm, okay, that was the data that I created. So you can see if there's something that isn't being created properly, because we're going to be potentially doing some data manipulation in the back end as well. So we want to send the finished product back to the front end so we can see it, or the back to the
Exactly. And not that we necessarily have to. We could do this and just send a status code. If we didn't need to send the data back, though generally convention is once you create something, you send that data back.
yeah.
So for now we'll stick with that.
Yeah, I like it. And we're sending it
Okay.
back in JSON format is what that .json is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which is generally the format I think we're going to work in when it
Right.
comes to transmitting data over different protocols. Okay. So one thing I want to address, got this problem here. Upskill&Chill such Prisma not found. This file is in this program because matched by include patterns. So we're having a weird issue with our tsconfig.json. And I'm wondering what the issue is here. So by include pattern. .ts. Oh, okay. Okay, let me see if I can get. I haven't even been running the server. Let's see if this even runs or if it yells at us. So far, so good. Switch back. Oops. Switch back here. I guess we want to do specifically. Okay, so it is running. It's a good start. Excellent. Okay, so we could do this one of several ways in terms of actually implementing this into our or testing whether this functionality actually works or not. We could try to just navigate over to the front end and start inputting this into our handled submit function. Or we could, I could pull up something like Postman, and we could just try testing sending like a sample set of data and making sure that it actually returns the right status code and everything. Um, have you ever used Postman or anything like that?
I've used it before.
Okay, let's do that just because I feel like that's probably best practice. Ooh, ooh. Okay, sign me back in. Oh gosh. That's fine. Haven't used Postman since I navigated over to since I switched over to Firefox. Okay, so we're going to create a new endpoint. We're going to make it a post endpoint. And let me just copy. We're going to do. Let's see. This. With the only difference being that we're hitting API/to do. Okay. So
And
in
then
our
API
body.
slash to do. The API is going to the APIs, obviously, but what's the to do coordinate to there? That's the endpoint
Yes, good
name.
question. Good question.
You see that?
That coordinates, and I'm sorry, it's actually task. So API/task.
Okay, that was my
And
question. Yeah.
so inside the folder, whatever your route is, this is the logic that will function whenever you hit this route, essentially. And I'm glad you pointed that out because we were going to have a confusing debug for just a second if we didn't do that. Okay, so we're going to do raw data JSON. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, it'll look. Sorry, double quotes for everything. Okay, so we are going to submit a description. Just call this
Test or testing.
test one, test 1, 2.
There we go. Musicians. Test 1, 2, 3.
Gosh, I'm already blanking on what our
Name.
model is.
I should be. I can help you out. I should be able to help with that. But
you know, it's crazy. I didn't add name, did I? To our schema. No, I didn't. Silly. Okay, so
really?
before we do all
Okay.
that,
That's funny.
I'm going to have to add a name field.
You're right. Yeah, we skipped over it.
Which will be a string, and this will be required. I think that's why I didn't provide the optional string earlier. Okay, let's go ahead and run another migration.
You know, we'll let it slide because you've been doing such a great job of presenting this whole time.
Okay, I'm glad to. Oh gosh.
Yeah, and then now I think we're going to run into an issue because you moved that directory, and that now it's looking for it in a different location.
Okay, so probably the most responsible fix for this, for now at least, would be to pull this back out to the level it originally was in.
Back to our other import statement.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe off screen we can fix that later on.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was same
On the
level
same
as,
level as app, I think, or all the way out there actually.
yeah, it was outside of the SRC folder.
Yeah.
Oh, and it did automatically fix this, which is nice. Okay,
Okay.
tsconfig.json. Still not happy, but when is it ever? Um, okay, let's try this again. Prisma is not in this registry. Note that you can also install from target folder HTML. Well, that's not good. So I almost wonder if I need to completely regenerate all of this. Let's put this in here. Only because I did that very irresponsible pull in. I just wonder if it has to do with this too. Okay, that's that
I don't know
thing.
if that has to do with. I could be wrong, but that seems like a different thing, maybe.
Let's try this. The search. It's not in registry. There's not registries. How to reproduce, install, make schema. Okay, perfect. So this looks like we're in the right place. It's Prisma, not Primza. Oh, did I do that too? I did do that. That's so funny.
Wow, you made the same. What a highly specific debug.
Oh my gosh. That's so silly. Okay.
Fantastic.
Oh man. That's so funny.
The
It's so
same
funny that
exact
there's actually a
misstroke
GitHub issue for that exact same thing.
for nothing more than a mistype of a word. The exact same misspelling. That's incredible.
I keep wanting to call them properties. Name column. Okay. Okay, we're back. So I probably didn't even need to move that folder, but I'm going to leave it here for now just to keep things simple. Okay, so now we have name added back in. Where was I? So we were in Postman.
Postman.
Don't have to do it in the same order, but I'm just going to do this for ease of reading. Call this test name. Okay. Back to what we were.
Priority. I'll read them off to you so you don't have to keep switching back and forth.
Appreciate it.
Priority will be a number.
Okay, we'll do 1.
Created at with a capital A on at
Okay.
as a string. You just put like
Leave
1,
that.
2, 3 like numbers in there.
Sure.
Yeah. And then completed as a boolean.
Cool. Completed. And I guess we'll switch this in a minute, but just for now we'll leave it. We can actually submit this as default false because you shouldn't be creating a task that's already completed necessarily. But for the time being,
I think it is going to default to false.
We'll send the request and let's see what happens. Internal server error. We love to see it. So now we
Probably
start.
maybe restart the server if we've made some changes around and stuff. Just like try turning it off and turning it back on again.
Non-white space character.
Unless there is an actual issue.
I will do that anyway because I think that is wise. But I think maybe the way I submitted my JSON was incorrect. It said unexpected white space
Doesn't
character.
like the colon up there or something? Huh.
Yeah, that is strange. End of file expected. Okay.
Is this doesn't data have to be inside of an object? Do we need to create
Oh,
that inside of an object itself?
I think you might be right. Aha! You're a genius, Spencer. Okay, let's try this.
This is why, like, we should just always code together because it's much, much slower, but we got two heads thinking about it at the same time.
That's true. Oh, of course. Silly me.
Data.
Don't need to include that
Don't
at
need the
all.
data.
Yeah, that is a. I believe that is a default.
Oh yeah, because we're not because we're trying to send into the endpoint what we'd be getting from the front end, and from the front end we're just sending an object with one level of properties, right?
Yes, and this time I think we got it right.
There we go. Third
Here's
time's
my
the charm.
201. It returned the object. Okay, so now let's navigate over to our Neon console, which is right here. And we're going to look at tables. Or is it tables? Haven't used this in a while. Yeah, so tables, search tables. Oh, task, here we go. And there it is. We have our
Hey,
data point.
we have
It's available.
data. Persistent data.
We're connected.
That is sweet. Okay.
Okay. So with that in mind, let's save our progress to this point. So what have I done? I'm gonna do a couple specific commits. Let's do git add, and where am I? I'm at the top level, so slash Prisma. Handle that separately. I'm gonna say added name. I guess we actually also changed the client since then. So let's just say, how do you unstage a commit? Or
Uh,
do you?
type git status real quick. So it should be up there above there. So git restore dash dash staged.
Ah, there it is. Cool. Oh, and then the file name. I see.
And then the file
Okay.
name. Yeah.
Restore dash dash staged. Good to be specific with these things. And I'm going to remove Prisma.client. Is it dot client? No, slash client.ts. Okay, now get status. Okay, beautiful. Added name field or name column to task schema. Okay, then we're going to do add, just do Prisma again. Adjusted client definition. And then let's do the rest. Created API folder and first task endpoint. Got too fast for myself. Git push origin quit. Beautiful. Oh, look, somehow this went away. The config file problem went away.
Interesting.
Okay. So here we are. We have our data moving correctly. We have our first model defined. We've integrated Prisma. We have our database actually set up. So the next step would be to start integrating, making an API call from when we click the submit button with our data input, and having it actually hit our endpoint and add data through this interface. So it's 11:05 now. I'm assuming we want to wrap it up at this point.
Yeah, probably. This is a good stopping point, a good end point to end at here. Nice work. Nice.
Yeah.
I can tell
This was
you were prepared. I should next time I'm gonna be in charge of things. I should probably prepare a little bit more. That was like watching a course, man.
Oh, well, thank you. I
That was
appreciate
very
that.
good. That's very well done. That was cool. So we've kind of created like step 1 and step 3 with the database as step 3 and the front end as step 1, and then step 2 is the in between, which is our back end. which you did create the endpoint there. So I guess we're going back to
Yes.
step one now to finish out the send from the front end to the back end, which will then create on the database side. So
Exactly. Yeah. Next week we'll
that'll be fun.
fully connect the front and back end, and we'll see how easy that is just within the next ecosystem. It's really simple compared to having like a separate back end. I mean, there's a lot of strength, I think, in how easy it is to read and kind of think through the process,
Yeah.
of having everything in the full stack on the same file structure, the same framework, the same paradigm, basically. You
Hmm.
notice that, like, even in the backend components, the routing works the same. You know, your folders define your routes, and then we have, like, on the front end, you call it page.tsx, right? To to develop the actual view that you're looking at, and on the back end, it's route.tsx to define what's actually happening when you hit the route. I like it.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, Awesome. So that'll be next time. We'll finish out the handle submit, and then we'll finish out the API, and then from there, we could probably move into um, maybe like an update. If we want to keep going down this whole rabbit hole, we can do an update endpoint and add an update UI as well, so you can
Mhm.
um, update like the description, the name, checking it off and whatnot. At some point, we're gonna have to style that thing too.
Yes, yes,
So that
yes.
was something else I was thinking
Something we've
about.
been dancing around.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, awesome. Well, I think this was super successful, super great. Um, yeah, I think that's a wrap.
This feels good. This feels good. It's a good staging point for the next week.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will be back again next week to do some more. Thanks a lot,
That's
and
right.
we'll see you next time.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
All right. Stream is closed. Um, I just realized, well, as you were doing your outro there, I was just thinking about the steps in doing this and
Mhm.
how we always end up staying on a little bit longer here. And usually I'm recording the rest of our conversation. And I'm just realizing that all of the episodes I uploaded to YouTube are the full
Nice.
video. So I don't remember us really talking about anything that we wouldn't want public. We were
No,
just
I think
chatting about
we're
job
okay.
search
Yep.
stuff and whatnot. I mean, there was my little rant about like being frustrated with the interview process where you have to know all the advanced stuff and then know the basic stuff and then you can never know it all, whatever. But I'm just thinking back. So uh, note to selves: keep
That's worth
this.
a trim.
It might be worth a trim, or it's behind the scenes footage to like I don't know. They're out there now. I don't. I can go double check, but I don't think there's anything we have to worry about. But maybe in the future, I'll think about trimming this post stuff out. I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal. But I was just like, oh no, what is out there now that isn't supposed to
Yeah,
be?
right.
But like anybody's gonna watch them, they all still have 0 views. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. If they get to the end, you know what? They deserve to see
Well,
the
that was
real
kind of what
us.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, it might actually be kind of fun to just like continue doing this and uploading it all the same. And it's just and whoever gets to the end of an hour and a half video for whatever reason that they're doing that, you get the post game locker room conversation.
And I feel like I just talked so much.
You did great. You did great. Seriously, that felt
Thank you.
like someone on YouTube giving like, here's how you do Next.js and Prisma. Like, you were very well put together. I have taken a little bit of a looser approach to this whole thing where I'm not like prepping a course beforehand the way you did, but I am noticing how much we got done or you got done in one video in an hour because you were prepared.
Sure.
And so we can move more
Yeah,
quickly that way. So a little bit of preparation is probably in needed or advised. So we can.
yeah, especially with everything we did today, it's very like it's all related to each other, and there is a lot of like things are in the air until we finally connect everything up, and then it's like,
Mhm.
oh, Because like, what did we do today? Really, we finally made it so that you can create one piece of data and have it persist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a lot of work to get to that first step. Obviously, that's powerful and allows us to do other things further
Yeah.
down the line. But
I'm really
you know,
excited for actually starting to use this as our to-do app for this stream. Like, I really want to do that. I want to have a running
yeah,
list of like to-dos and
yeah.
have them checked off. We can do like a styling with like a strike through on the text and like gray it out
Oh,
and put it at the bottom.
love it.
And then we'll just have like this running stack. It'll be cool. I'm really looking forward to that.
That's gonna be great. Yeah, I think that's a fun like a fun bit of shtick too. It's like, oh, we've actually created something we're going to use. I mean, like the To Do app is sort of like this thing that everybody creates to begin,
Hmm.
building CRUD applications, but to actually use one is funny. I
Yeah.
feel like there's infinite number of to do list apps out there that just don't get used. They're
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
sitting on servers somewhere.
And as we're moving on and learning about other things and expanding the project and everything, then we can just continue to use or advance that to do app and just keep it going. I think it'll be great. Could add categories eventually,
Definitely.
and then we can categorize based on what project we're working on at the time and all that.
We're basically going to like build oh, what's it called? Everybody uses it. It's like a Scrum application. Jira. We're like going to
Jira.
be
Oh,
building
okay.
Jira.
Yeah.
That's like an advanced to do list, right? With like
Yeah.
searchability and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. But we should absolutely add like a search eventually too, like a search bar to the to do lists.
That's an important subject to look into, like just
Yeah.
search in general. So yeah,
Search and
I mean,
sort.
it is kind of cool how open it leaves things to exploring all these really fundamental like problems that we have to solve in coding.
Mhm.
It touches on a lot of subjects.
Yeah.
Oh man, the misspelling thing. Oh, I was like, what is going on here?
That is hilarious. The exact
Primza.
same misspelling, and like there's an entire. I love that that guy made an entire GitHub issue and like went through all the documentation steps, like how to recreate it. This is the thing. Here's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
files. Like all of this prep work for somebody to be like, dude, you misspelled the word.
That's so funny. You know what's crazy too? I've read that like humans, once we get used to reading, it's like we actually look at the first letter and last letter, and we read the word, but we don't necessarily put all the middle letters in order. So it's funny that that's an easy thing to miss. Then.
Yep. Years ago, my older sister was like, Spencer, come to the computer real quick. I was like, okay. And she's like, read what's on the screen. I was like, okay. And I just looked at it and I started reading it. And as I was reading, it was only a couple sentences, but I was reading it in my head. And I know as I was reading it, there was something going off in my head like these words don't look right, but I could read it just fine, right? Because the idea is if all the letters are there, the first and last are the same, but everything in the middle can be scrambled and you can still read it,
Right.
right? Because of that reason. And she said, "No, no, no, read it out loud." I was like, "Okay." And I started back over, and then I started stumbling hard, which was really funny because it made me realize when I read out loud, I'm analyzing, and maybe this is the same way for everybody, but like I'm analyzing the individual letters a lot more than if I'm just scanning, which I guess makes
Yeah, like
sense.
the syllables matter, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Then I
Reading out
started
loud, you're like, oh,
then yeah.
crimza. No, that's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. So
So
yes,
silly.
you're absolutely correct. And that's really funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that went better than I was expecting, though. I kind of thought we'd get bogged down somewhere else.
That was
We had a
great.
couple moments, but
That was the
it worked.
smoothest episode yet. 1 hour and we actually got like a whole bunch of stuff done.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
It was good.
Um, I'm going to fix the file structure situation. I'll test it, make sure everything's working, and then I'll push
Sure.
those changes up.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think
Um,
that'll be quality.
yeah. Do you need me to do a pull request now, or should I just do it after I fix all that?
No,
What's your
just
Okay.
fix it, uh, push it, and then we'll just make it all one merge or something.
Okay.
Don't make it harder than it has to be.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I dig that. Um, awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
This is fun.
I love this. I look forward to Friday. I'm always sad that it's only an hour.
Me too.
But
Me too.
yeah.
When we got to 11:05, it's like, damn, maybe do we go longer? No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Um that was my thought, and I don't again, I'll keep bringing it up, but I'm not even sure about doing it, but like trying to go multi times, like 2 times a week or something. doing like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something as well. But um, if we're really that itchy for content generation, then maybe. But don't have to force anything either. I don't want it to become a um, like a burden, right? Like, oh man, it's
Yeah.
Monday. I've got to prepare for stream tomorrow, and then there's other things that need to get done, and then yeah, becomes not fun at that point. So we don't have to push anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm open to that maybe in the future, but for now, I'm fine with once a week.
Yeah, yeah,
We can let it stay fun for now.
yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna start. I think I'm gonna start streaming that NeoVim config stuff here sometime in the next couple of weeks. Try it out, but so I'll get my stream fixed that way.
Okay. Whew,
Cool.
man, what a what a time.
How are like other projects going for you? You're working on a couple things.
Honestly, no. I've been looking for another job. I've been looking for like a quicker to get job in the last week. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Just
Hmm.
something to like get more consistent money coming in.
Yep.
Um,
Hear that.
yeah, yeah, def. So that was my focus over the last week. Honestly, I kind of like didn't jump back into coding this week until this morning when I started looking up how to do all this again. Um, but building this, I kind of remembered like, oh, I really like doing this stuff. I should probably like pop back into my projects and update and stuff. I've got one project that's like a full front end, and I just don't like it that much. So I'm
Mm.
at that point in the project where I'm like, "Ugh, I gotta crack this open and like solve this problem that's been dogging me
Hmm.
for a while. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we're building stuff here on the stream, but at some point in time, I think it would be really cool to actually work on like a legit project as partners to one degree or another as well. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, I'd love that, man. Build something that doesn't have to be so slowly built, and we don't necessarily have to be like in the same room.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
like an actual product. We wouldn't be doing live streaming and all that jazz. It's just like something that we just build together, right? I
Yeah.
saw advice on LinkedIn a while ago that was really good. That was like, don't build a side project, build a startup.
Mm, mm.
Like,
Yeah. Everyone's like,
start with the aim to
create your
actually
own
like
job.
create a thing and put it out there, not just like a project that you're gonna build and then it's just gonna collect dust and do nothing.
That's
That
a
could
good
be
idea.
interesting.
I need to think of something. I've often tried to think of like what is like is there excuse me like a tool I can build that's like music adjacent that would be useful,
Mm,
and that's honestly kind of a tricky thing when it comes to like ingesting sound for one. Um,
mhm.
but and like when you're talking about building a startup, obviously this would not be the idea. But I've thought of building like a web app tool for practicing. Like it would have a metronome. It would have I probably won't have a tuner, but it would have like the ability to like keep track of what you've been doing in practice. I found for me, I get better when I'm like consistent with like, oh, yesterday I was working on this. Let me pick that back up where I
Mhm.
was.
Like kind of
That kind of thing,
like a journaling, like a practice journaling app.
like a practice buddy or something like that.
Okay.
Oh, it would have tones too. Like you could play like long tones, either for tuning or for practice.
Oh, okay.
When players and stuff got to practice their intonation. So,
Ah, yes. Yeah. That'd be
so
cool.
I don't
Yeah.
know. There's
Very cool.
ideas out there.
I've wanted to create a metronome and I've wanted to create a drum sequencer, like a little drum
Mm,
machine. Those are two projects that have been in the back of my mind for a while, just because they're things that I interact with pretty regularly as a drummer. And I've
yeah,
been curious about like how, like just the idea of s- signaling the sounds in time, right? Keeping that all very steady. Like how do you
yeah,
programmatically go about, putting some snare drums here, some bass drums there, some hi hats, and hitting play, and then having it play and staying in time consistently.
yeah,
I'm very
yeah.
curious about that.
Maybe there's something there, man. I might make a list of just like things because like, what if all of that was in the same application? You could like,
Maybe, yeah.
lots of music utilities or something. I don't know.
Or if nothing else, it's something we could explore on the stream too.
That's true. That's true. That could be the next thing after to do. I like it because at least it relates to what like some domain expertise that we have
Hmm.
previously. It's not like you remember there was that guy that started working with Anna and he got a job pretty quickly because he was like a lawyer and he went
Yeah,
into like a startup that dealt with law
yeah,
somehow. It's
yep.
like I've been trying to angle in that way, but it's a little harder because a lot of a lot of music tech is not built in JavaScript. It's built in
Hmm,
like C sharp and stuff like or C plus plus.
interesting. Guess that
Things
makes
like
sense.
I believe that's what like Finale and Sibelius are built in for
Yeah,
like
that
Pro
would make sense for
Tools.
like native apps. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I use my music staff as
Um,
a music teaching studio like software like for scheduling.
yeah, yeah.
It's got a calendar. You put your students on there. It generates the invoices for you, emails.
Oh, that's
It sends
nice.
email and text reminders and all kinds of stuff. So I've been using that for a few years. And it saved me a ton of time. That's actually a company that I've thought about. Like I need to find them because I've been using their product for so long. Like maybe there's a possibility there because they clearly they have a great web web app that they actually just updated. Like it was like a year or so ago.
Oh,
Like
that's
just
good to
like
know.
everything, the whole front end is up
What
to
do you use
upstyled.
for notation? Music
Finale.
notation, I mean. Finale? Okay.
Yeah,
You
that's what I
still
learned.
you, mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people really like Sibelius. Finale is what I learned first, and now my mind is just locked into the Finale way of doing things. And I've tried using some other notation software, but then it doesn't do things in the Finale process, and I just haven't. I have not been willing to take the time to learn a new like mental model of how you're going to put notes on
Mm,
the
mm.
page. I've got Finale. I've been doing it for a long time. I built my whole book in Finale. I'm pretty fast in Finale, so I'm that's just I'm stuck.
Yeah, that's what I learned on and what I used for many years, but then, I had an issue with my PC and, like, Finale just straight up wouldn't run anymore,
Mm.
and I could probably fix that at this point, but at the time, I was like, "I just need to find something else because I need to get some music out." So I ended up transitioning to Sibelius, which, was okay. I found that the documentation for, like, how to do things was pretty limited, and I had a weird version that didn't seem to have full support in
Hmm.
terms of like, there's a lot of, like, I guess they call it, like, jazz notation, but, like, things that are not, like, strictly classical that I was trying to do that I just couldn't get to work. So
Oh,
I've been
interesting.
using MuseScore for a long
Yep,
time now.
I know about that one as well.
Yeah, it's free and it works well enough.
Yeah.
I found it easier to use than Sibelius. I know I've heard a lot of people really love Sibelius, but I just didn't really like it that much.
Hmm.
I miss Finale. I would like to get back to that actually, but I don't wanna buy a license right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I bit the bullet many years ago and bought
Mm,
a version of Finale, and I've just stuck with it. And I only make drum notation, right? I'm never writing like
sure.
full scores or anything else like that. So I just have a template that I open up every time, and it just gives me everything I need to be able to make drum notation for charting songs or making lesson sheets for students, or like I said, my book. Um, and it works great.
Is it it's like a specific version that you have, right? It doesn't just you don't get
Yeah,
free updates or anything.
yeah, and it's old at this point, but it still runs, so I just don't mess with it.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I had the student version and I just once I couldn't get it to work anymore, I just abandoned.
Mm. Yeah, when I after I graduated McNally, McNally had like a deal where you could get some like a discount. So I got yeah, because I don't remember how much I paid for it. That Finale is an expensive program,
Yes, it is.
but I think I got like 150 or 200 bucks off of it or something. It was like 600 and I got it for 400. But I spent that money like 10 years ago, and I constantly am using Finale, so
Yeah,
absolutely
more
worth
than worth it at this point, for sure. But I remember seeing that price tag and thinking like, "Wow, how am I gonna afford this? 700 bucks for
it. Yeah.
music notation software?" But then it's like, where else are you gonna go?
Yep. Well, and it's full featured.
But
Like I used the
yeah.
free version for quite a while. I was using the free
Mm,
version, but the limitations in the free version because I used the full version at McNally in my like arranging class and in all my all the computers there had full versions of Finale for use on them. So I got very used to being able to just move things around very easily and do all the shortcuts. And then I had the free light version, and so much of that was un was not possible to use, and eventually it just got to the point where like this is ridiculous. I need to be able to do these things. Take my money.
yeah, totally, totally. I totally see that. It's worth it. I mean, it's like a professional expense, right?
Yep, absolutely.
It's kind of funny because like I haven't really had to do that at all with coding.
Right? Yeah.
Like,
I like when I first got into it. I started. going to all these different things and like, oh, you need this program, you need this language, and I just thought to myself like, wait, all this is free?
Yeah,
What in the
yeah, totally.
world?
How is that possible? But it makes
Yeah.
sense. Now that I've been in it for a minute, it makes sense. We couldn't get to this point if a lot of that stuff wasn't free.
Oh
If
my gosh,
most of it
the
wasn't.
the upfront cost to trying to become a web developer would just be insane.
Yeah.
Like, you have to buy a React license, you have to buy a Next license, you have to buy a TypeScript license, you have to buy a GitHub
Even your
license, you have
IDE.
a VS Code license, you have to buy, a CSS license, like, all that stuff. Just be nuts.
It's funny though, because like now that I've been doing this for a while, there's a part of me that's like, I know that there are IDEs that cost money out there, and I'm like, maybe I
Mhm,
should investigate that. Like, what features do they have? How much
mhm.
nicer is it? Like,
Yeah,
would
I saw one for I think it was an ad for JetBrains, I think it was,
JetBrains? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was a recent one that, looked pretty snazzy, got integrated AI assistants and stuff, if you're a fan of that one way or the other. Um,
I
I'm
I don't know
NeoVim
that I
through and
am.
through at this point, so I'm good.
I think I have one switch in me in the future, like away from VS Code to something else. I don't know if it's NeoVim,
NeoVim, NeoVim.
but I know you're a proponent for sure.
I'm an evangelist. I'm a NeoVim evangelist. Absolutely. I will. I would be happy to like, if nothing else, like help you like try it out or get started, just to see what it's like. There are ways you can do it without having to do all the configuration yourself up front.
Mm,
But kind of once you explore the things that are possible and how quick it is. Once you learn, there is a little bit of upfront learning for some of the keystrokes and how Vim does the keyboard bindings. But once you figure out how to navigate solely with the keyboard, man, you can't go back. It's
yeah.
crazy being able, like, you barely ever have to touch your mouse, and you can just like open a split, switch over there, copy paste that, move back, paste, move up there, right? Um, the precision, being able to move your cursor to precisely where you want to go in a key press, as opposed to, okay, let me drag my mouse from this corner of the screen down to this corner of the screen. Like,
Mm.
it's it's
I've an old
lovely.
friend that's a senior dev, and he's always in my ear about that too. He thinks that he knows a lot of people that have had like wrist issues that are other coders, and he's never had that. And he swears that it's because he's used Vim all these
Mm,
years.
interesting.
Um, and I could see the strength of that. I mean, I don't generally get wrist issues, but there are days where like I do a lot of coding, I do a lot of bass playing, and I do kind of start to feel something in the wrists.
Hmm.
And I just don't want to feel that. I want to have these be as loose
Yeah.
and limber as
Yeah.
possible.
On that note, I had an old keyboard that I was using for quite some time, and I started to feel it, like, start actually, like my knuckles started to feel kind of sore after I was typing for a while,
Mm,
because it was like really
mm.
thin keyboard with all this stuff. And then I started looking into, and I went to this thing.
Oh, that's what my wife. Well, she doesn't have that, but she has something like that that's shaped
This
a little differently.
Yeah, a Kinesis, right? That's the
Okay.
Kinesis. This thing is so comfortable. It takes some getting used to, because obviously your keys are at like angles because there's the wells. But right, the whole idea is that a regular keyboard, you if you're resting your wrists, right, you're you're pronating, or whatever the term is, your wrists up to be on the keyboard, right?
Mm.
Because your rest point is like on the same level as the keyboard, and then you have to do this to get your hands up onto the keystroke, onto the key tap
Oh, right,
caps,
right, right.
right?
Yeah.
But here with this machine, with this bit piece, uh, your wrist goes here, and then your fingers fall into the key well.
Oh, quite naturally. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so then it creates a flat plane here, and you're not doing this and this constantly, which creates tension, right? If you straighten and flatten out your wrist, then moving your fingers
Interesting.
is a lot cleaner. So this is a piece of equipment that I invested in a while ago, and I love it. It will ruin all other normal keyboards for you though, um, because you do a lot with your thumbs now, actually, too, like backspace, space, enter, delete, home, end. All those things are on your thumb,
Oh,
your thumb clusters there, right? So your thumb
didn't know.
actually is
Yeah.
useful, which is super nice. Um, But when I go and I like sit down on my wife's laptop, if I have to type like anything, I'm constantly hitting. When I make a mistake, I start using my left thumb on the space bar to backspace, and
You
it just
just
like
add experiments.
yeah. So that part is a little weird, but I hardly ever use like I'm never on another computer. I don't have a job where I have to like be typing on like a work standardized computer somewhere. Because
Mm.
so I find this thing to be very much worth the investment.
I hear that. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, that's something I'll look into. It's on the list.
Yeah.
There's always more things to get.
Oh yeah, of course there is. There's always toys, but all right. So
Um,
uh, yeah. So well, thank you for joining us for the behind the scenes backstage conversation here on YouTube.
yeah, thanks for contributing to our Patreon,
Yeah,
aka just
yeah.
watching this long.
I have been thinking about the idea of like setting up a one of those like buy me a coffee tip jar thingamajigs because I've seen some other developers that have them too, and it's like I don't know if I'm creating content and people enjoy it, maybe somebody would give me a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Who
Hey,
knows?
you never know. I've,
Might be
I've
worth it.
worked off for tips before, and I will do it again.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Cool. All right, Courtney. It's
All right,
been a lot of
listen.
fun,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, good hanging. I'll catch you on LinkedIn and all that. But have a good
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah. You too.
Peace.
See ya.